Hello, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Orange County, California. Hedia, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you. Out in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah,
I'll be in Orange County in a couple hours. Yeah.
good. Sorry, I need to get rid of this cough. Hopefully, it'll go away soon. Before we go much further, we just want to share with you. I shared it last night on the show that I did last night. But a friend of ours, a friend of the show, a friend of Hedia and I's, we've had lunch with Beverly Lawson. I work with Beverly Lawson for 21 years at Anaheim Police Department. But early yesterday morning, she passed away. We're not sure quite yet what happened. Maybe some medication she might have been on. She had some health problems. And had maybe some trouble sleeping, and just the combination of whatever got the best of her on the way to the hospital. Her heart stopped and she passed away yesterday. She was just recently, just the day before on our show, making comments and things like that. And Hetty and I had lunch with her not too long ago. And you just never know. You never know when God is going to call you. And so we are sad today, but glad also that she's with Jesus Christ, where she's probably way more comfortable, having a far better time than we are here on this planet, and hopefully spending time with her late husband, who also passed away just about a year and a half ago or so, and is with him. So, Hedia?
And interestingly enough, as you went to go live, I thought that this devotional being dedicated to her also speaks to her. And how I felt when I first met her. I had asked you, I was like, oh my God, Andy, she's so sad. Why is she so sad? And I felt like it was beyond anything that somebody could intervene, and Jesus intervened. So even sometimes we think that solutions that we would do are better, but he has the ultimate solution. So I'm happy for her, at least, that she's in his loving embrace now.
Yep. And we got news from somebody else here. We got Crinder, who went through brain surgery the other day. He's in the hospital and he's bored.
Bored and alive. Bored and alive, Crinder. How are you doing?
Yes, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna try to explain it. We had difficulty with this devotional too, so it's interesting. And we were shocked. I was shocked. I got a message from her mom. She sent me a message and had me call her. And you can tell that she was in shock when I talked to her. So, hello, Amy. Nice to see you. Grinder saying hi to you. Yes. Yeah, Amy, we are, but also we are rejoicing in the fact that she's with Jesus and spending time where we want to be eventually. Has Andy been good today?
Andy's always good. Andy's always good. And I tell him, I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't know you before, because my Andy is amazing. I don't know what all these other people have to say, but my Andy is amazing.
This Andy. This version of Andy.
This Andy is awesome. The other day he was a little testy to me, and I was like, I don't know if that's what you normally do, but this is my Andy.
Hey, wait a minute.
My Andy back.
When did I do that? Let me think back. All right. Well, before you go much further, let's get into the devotional. It's an interesting one. So hold on to your seats. We are going to kind of break it down. It would be great to get even more comments coming through. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for the thoughts on Beverly's passing. And again, continue to pray for her mom and dad, who are still alive, and I'm sure are struggling right now. As we know more, for those of you that are watching that are local and maybe want to attend the service or something like that, we'll try to do our best to keep you up to date on what's happening with that.
And amazingly enough, we'll see that this devotional is about her too.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So we're reading from My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, as we will continue to do so for the next couple weeks or months. I can't remember how long. It's coming soon, or we're gonna move on to the next devotional. But it's by Oswald Chambers for March 24th, and it's called "Decreasing for His Purpose." The reference is John 3:30. He must increase, but I must decrease. That's actually the whole passage, by the way. If you become a necessity to someone else's life, you are out of God's will. As a servant, your primary responsibility is to be a friend of the bridegroom. When you see a person who is close to grasping the claims of Jesus Christ, you know that your influence has been used in the right direction. And when you begin to see that person in the middle of a difficult and painful struggle, don't try to prevent it, but pray that his difficulty will grow even 10 times stronger until no power on earth or in hell could hold him away from Jesus Christ. Over and over again, we try to be amateur providences in someone's life. We are indeed amateurs, coming in and actually preventing God's will and saying, this person should not have to experience this difficulty. Instead of being friends of the bridegroom, or sympathy gets in the way. One day the person will say to us, you are a thief. You stole my desire to follow Jesus, and because of you, I lost sight of him. Beware of rejoicing when rejoicing over the wrong thing. Sorry, let me read that again. Beware of rejoicing with someone over the wrong thing, but always look to rejoice over the right thing. The friend of the bridegroom rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Therefore, this joy of mine is fulfilled. He must increase, but I must decrease. This was spoken with joy, not with sadness. At last they were to see the bridegroom, and John said this was his joy. It represents a stepping aside and absolute removal of the servant, never to be thought of again. Listen intently with your entire being until you hear the bridegroom's voice in the life of another person, and never give any thought to what devastation, difficulties, or sickness it will bring. Just rejoice with God, excitement that his voice has been heard. You may often have to watch Jesus Christ wreck a life before he saves it. Oh my gosh. That last part gets me again. That very last words, you may have to wreck a life. Hedia, save me.
Oh my God, I can't even tell you how this is such a testimony to Beverly, because I think she watched you change. I mean, she's known almost every facet of you, right? Since you're a young adult. She watched you, she worked with you, you guys were friends, you hung out together, and then she watched this massive transformation in you. And I think maybe you didn't even realize it, but you did exactly what this devotional says. You just stepped aside. You didn't try to fix her or change her. You just let her witness the move of Christ in your life. And I think it brought her closer to him at a time when she really needed it. And I think he stepped in and grabbed her hand and took her home, because I don't think she had that relationship. I mean, you know better. I don't think she had that relationship with Christ until she witnessed this transformation in you. And I don't know, it's amazing. It's just amazing that this happened at this time with her. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, you know better, but that's my thought.
I got some new meanings from reading it the second time and really saw what you were saying in regard to Beverly. And I didn't think about it until you said it when we went live. But yeah, so much of what you just said is true, I think. And again, it's because of God working through me, not because of who I am. And then that last part of wrecking a person's life, I really read that differently this time, is that the wrecking the life of the flesh.
Exactly.
Of, you have to die and be born again, and
Yes.
wrecking that old life is what that is. That's what it's speaking to me now, as before as opposed to how I read it the first time. and really made it more clear that he's got to wreck it and get rid of it and bury it and say, and that's kind of what he's done for me, right? I mean, he's wrecked my life, my old life. And so thank God that it's brought us together and for our children. And so on a different note, so I can gather myself because I'm really holding it all in. Is that the other thing that we talked about that I think is important to understand, at least from my perspective, and hopefully it'll help somebody out there, is that we have sometimes people in our life, family members, children, and I'll just relate a story about one of my children, and that is my oldest daughter, that as coming out of high school, we had talked about, and there's a lot of other difficulties going on, but just this one aspect, and my focus was on her overall well-being going into adulthood as she was graduating from high school and going into adulthood. Because I started working at a very early age. I mean, I used to mow lawns like at 8 years old down the street and that kind of stuff. So I've from that point on, I've always been working. And so I even had jobs at 13 years of age, 14 years of age. I know that somebody might say, well, that's child, labor or whatever, or slavery. But I would work. I actually would drive to a place of work and they would have me clean trucks at a semi-truck place when I was 13, 14 years old. And I would clean the trucks for them and they would pay me, in cash. So I'm just telling you this story. So my being is always working and being a provider for myself, and then as I got older, a provider for my family. And so I really struggled with the fact that my daughter at that time at 18 had not had a job yet, other than working for me from time to time. And I said, I need you to work for somebody else. You can't continue to work for me. And so what I need from you, if you're going to stay living in this house, is that you need to get a job. And weeks would go by, months would go by, and I ask her, hey, have you been looking for a job? Well, I can't find one. Nobody's hiring. And I just saw that there was a for hire sign at their Wiener Schnitzel. I'd see at different places. I would do a search, and now we can do a search on Google to look for jobs, and they would show you all these jobs. And I'd say, I don't understand what you well, I don't want to work there. No, and that's another thing. I would say you have to sometimes work a crap job in the beginning to eventually find the job you want. So we had this conversation from time to time, and then as she graduated from high school, and a couple of months later, she still had not, as far as I'm concerned, tried hard enough to get a job. I said, well, this is your third strike. And as I told you before, that you can only stay here is if you get a job or go to college. That was the other prerequisite for her staying here. Neither one of those things happened. And so as true to my word, I packed up her stuff and I moved her to her mom's house, where she had not lived for several years. I had custody of my daughter. And took her to her mom's house and dropped her off and unloaded the boxes. And I pulled away, leaving her there, both of us crying like crazy. I actually didn't cry until after I left her, but I was just hoping I was doing the right thing. So the moral of the story is that through this kind of thing here, what they're talking about is that sometimes you just have to let them struggle, let them figure it out, and put them in a position where you are not going to save them. Now, she didn't know this, but I would have saved her if it would have been a choice between her living on the streets. But I felt pretty strong that she would, at least be living in her mom's house for a while. The end of the story is that within 2 weeks, she had 2 jobs. She had to be put in that position of struggle and kind of wrecked her life, where I took her from a house that she'd almost grown up in, for 7 or 8 years, and took it away from her and pushed her out. And that's kind of what the devotional reminded me of, is that sometimes, as hard as it may be, is to allow this family member, this person, to go through this struggle so that they can learn how to swim or learn how to fly on their own. She has not gone without a job since then. She's now 26 years old, and she's found several jobs. She's created a resume. She knows how to create resumes. She knows how to do all these things now, because I allowed her to struggle. And so I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but it's not easy to stand back and watch somebody struggle and suffer for a period of time. I know the first couple of days she thought that I hated her probably. Our relationship grew after that. As a matter of fact, after she got a couple jobs and worked for them for a while, she moved back near where I live. She's actually a neighbor of mine. And so it all ended up well. And that's the positive end of that story. So it just needed to happen. And it was kind of a forced struggle. I had to actually have a hand in forcing her to struggle, but it worked out to the benefit of my daughter, I think. So I hope that was helpful and hopefully made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. And she loves you very much right now. So whatever it did, it worked. And I mean, I struggle with the same thing with my daughter. She's much younger. So we have a certain responsibility to rear our children in ways of the Lord and to guide them and discipline them while we still have control over them. But the Lord's told me repeatedly when I wanted to intervene, my nature is to intervene. I'm a fixer. So it's even with Bev, it was the same thing. I was like, oh my God, what can I do? How can I fix this? And the Lord's told me, especially with my daughter, she's my daughter. You love her. You demonstrate love, manifest fruit of the Spirit, and let me deal with how I'm going to bring her to her knees. And that's, and I know that's what it's going to take. I just pray it's not as painful as it could otherwise be, as some of her, relatives have gone through, our relatives have gone through. I hope she doesn't see such dark days. But I have to trust in the Lord that she will see my life and our life together juxtaposed as goodness and the light of the Lord compared to what she's choosing for herself, and she'll gravitate to the light and the Holy Spirit that's in her. She was baptized soon after I was. It was her personal commitment that she wanted to be. I ask her all the time, do you believe in Jesus Christ still? She says, yeah, of course I do. And so I just have to have faith. And it's so hard. It's so hard to watch somebody seemingly self-destruct. But, we have to stand in the gap and pray for them and leave it to Jesus. And to answer Corinder's question, I must decrease so he can increase, meaning we have to decrease our flesh, our desires to control, our desire to fix, our desire to think, oh, I know better. We have to surrender it. We have to surrender it so that Christ can manifest in us and they can gravitate to his light, not to us, not to what we say is right, but to his light so that it becomes a guiding force in their life forever.
Yeah. Now as thinking back now as my years as a police officer and seeing the different responses of parents as we were maybe arresting their children. Some think good riddance, handcuff them, take them to jail, let them see what it's like to actually be in jail. Like we see that in there's a program. I'm going to bring up my daughter again. She got caught shoplifting some years ago, a little like eyeliner or something like that. And she got caught. And one of the other best things that happened is that they offered us a program for her to go in Scared Straight. That's what it's kind of a Scared Straight program where they dress them up in the orange jumpsuit and put them in the jail, and the parents are outside the jail. And then the prisoners come into that jail where they're at and just say, what are you doing? Why are you messing up? You got parents out there. Look at those parents out there. They love you. They're here with you. But instead, and they start screaming at them. Do you want to look like this? Do you want to be like me? And they start, and the kids are like shaking, like, no, no. And it was great. And it was over a several week period of time. I think we met once or twice a week. I can't remember. We'd even met in the North Orange County courtroom. That's where we had some of our classes together. Sometimes they were together with the children, and then separate parents would have a class, and then the kids. It was a really good program, and we graduated with honors. And so that was great. I think that was really good for those times. They're going to slip up. They're going to make mistakes. I got caught shoplifting. I ended up being a police officer. So just understand that these things had happened. My dad actually punched me in the face in front of the manager for getting caught shoplifting. And I never stole a thing for the rest of my entire life. It's just
my problem is I never got caught. That's the story of my life, actually. I was a moving train wreck because I never got caught doing anything that I was doing wrong. So Yeah.
Oh, I'm just reminded of another story. Here goes a cop story, but I was in pursuit of a motorcycle. I ran the plate. It came back stolen, going down State College Boulevard. The kid, skids and turns to the left. I'm right behind him in my patrol car. We go down an alley, and now somehow I had lost, and this is one thing you don't want to do as cop is lose track of where you're at. Because when we pulled up the alley, I was going northbound in this alley, and we went through a couple streets, bouncing and flying. And then he ends up laying down the motorcycle. He jumps a fence. Little did I know he was running into his own home. And I was right behind him, right on his heels, jumping the fence, right behind him, chased him. He kicked the door open to the back door. I followed him and I tackled him inside the house in the hallway. And we're punching each other, and I'm punching him, and I'm getting like one arm behind his back. And all of a sudden I hear this grown man voice. This kid's probably 16, 17. What's going on here? And I go, I'm arresting this guy. Oh, that's my son. He goes, let me help you. And he gets his other arm and helps me handcuff him. I go, what address are we at? And he tells me that, because I had no idea where I was. All they heard was I was in pursuit, but they didn't know where I was. He tells me his address, the dad, so that I can have backup come and take this kid into custody. So that was, that was tough love right there. He goes, I'll help you handcuff him. The little turd. Sorry, I just had a little memory of the different things. I had parents call us up, and Paul probably remembers this. Paul Byer and I worked at Anaheim Police Department together. That they would call in, and then we'd respond to an incorrigible child and say, "Can you please just handcuff them and take them to the jail for a little while and have them see what it's like to be in the jail?" We wanted to help them, but it's something we couldn't do, unfortunately. But parents that are kind of like that. Then we had the other parents who would fight us, to not take their child to jail and kind of like harbor that criminality in that child and make it worse. So
that's what Oswald's talking about. We just sometimes interfere and stop God's plan for them because we think we know better. And it's hard. It's hard to make those really tough decisions when you're faced with them in the moment.
Yeah, Paul. I do remember this story. We talked about it a few times when we were meeting. But he says, "I don't know if you are aware that my ex kidnapped my boys at the age of 4 and 7 and moved back to Israel. That was in 1988. Oh, what a story! I'll tell you later." Wow. So now it's a cliffhanger for everybody else. Maybe when we do our show together, we'll talk maybe a little bit about that. Paul and I are still going to do a show about his journey. I just want to make sure and see where this story ends with his health. Wow, what a story! Yeah, I remember him telling me about that when we were working together. My gosh, this has been, again, we start off, we're not quite sure where we're going to go with this. And it brings so much to our minds. And thank you for Hedia for bringing Bev's story and situation to this, because it is a perfect fit, especially how we, our last lunch together was really speaks to this. I think we could tell that there was something going on, that she was struggling a little bit. In so many ways. She did ask me a couple times. I'm now remembering this too. She goes, "How do I find somebody like you were able to find somebody?" I hope that happens for me, and really, really struggling with that loneliness that she was having in her life. Again, all I could think of now is joy and happiness for her being where she's at. We never want it to happen, and we don't want it to ever intentionally happen, which I don't think is the case here. But when it does, we have to rejoice in that aspect. I'm also thinking about when I had COVID and I was in the hospital. That it was a struggle, but it brought some of the greatest joy in my life, and I have to remind myself of that from time to time, and people of that there I was in a position where it was like, I don't know if he's gonna make it. He might make it, he might not make it. We'll see what happens if he wakes up in the morning. And but so much goodness came out of that situation. And I don't know if it relates completely, but there was so much joy that of what happened with my kids and our relationship with each other. You just stepping in and taking over and being my I don't know, my caretaker is the best way to put it. Contacting the doctor, talking to them, telling them what to do and what not to do. So much goodness can come out of these very dark, appearingly, that's not the good word, but anyway, it seems to be a very dark time, and it turns out to be one of the best things that could ever happen.
Well, I think that's what Pastor Jack's encouraging us to in the middle of a pandemic, or the fact that our choice for president didn't work out for whatever reason, shenanigans or not, but that we shouldn't ever despair of what God's doing on the earth, because it's a time for miracles to come forward. And so God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. It's a strength and courage and love. And if we allow ourselves to surrender to that, we could see amazing things happen.
So true. All right. Priscilla said earlier, if you cry, I'll cry. Yeah, I was fighting it hard, man. That was not easy.
Me too.
So hard. But I don't want to be sad. I want to be happy that she's out of pain and discomfort. She had some health issues that she had struggled with for a very long time. So it's a great parenting. I wish more parents realize sometimes we have to push our kids. Yep. Yeah, you do. Well, I also want you to know that I did a lot of talking too. I mean, I wasn't just I woke up one day and said, this is going to be it. There was a lot of talking. I gave her a first strike, second strike, but it was the third strike that, I warned her. I told her it was all, it was all there. So don't forget the talking part and understand, so that they fully understand what's happening. It's so important, and also which I hope I'm being better at now. And that is a better example. This is an example of how you should live and honor God and live your life.
My daughter woke up the other day. She was putting on her shoes, getting ready for school. She's like, every morning I wake up to Jesus, I love you, Jesus. She's like, are you playing the same song over and over again? And I was like, no, honey, they're different songs, but that's what I'm trying to do, right? It's just like, so that she remembers for the rest of her life. She'll be 25 years old, or she'll be 20 in college, and she'll be partying, and that sound will echo in her ear. Jesus, Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, where's my mom and her worship music at 6:30 in the morning? Like, it's sometimes, more of, Jesus, more of you and less of me.
Yeah.
And it's
and the joy you have when you are doing that in your little dance that you do.
Yeah. Well, the same thing about our kids, right? Because neither of our kids, my daughter grew up without her father, and your kids, you always say you want them to see what a loving relationship looks like. And now all of them ridicule us at every step, anytime we hug or we kiss, and they're like, oh, but we're trying to show that we're trying to live as an example, so that those memories will stick with them. And when they're in their darkest moments and they turn to God, they have those memories and those recollections and the thought that, hey, I can live a life full of joy and spirit and freedom in Christ if I just look back at the things that they taught me.
Yep. And now you're just reminding me of one more thing. We're approaching the 30-minute mark here, but and I love what Jack said about bringing a Bible to church. One of the biggest mistakes that is made by a Christian is to stop bringing a Bible to church, and your phone doesn't count.
Yeah.
He says you can actually cut a hole in the Bible in the middle and put your phone inside there. But I love that. And that's not something that I've really participated in. I go, I got to carry this thing around.
No, he literally said, next week, I want all of you holding your Bibles. And we're like, okay.
It's funny. I was recording some of the message. I was making little snippets on my phone to use later on. And that part, and when he says, "Okay, I want everybody to hold up a Bible," and I heard the earlier message, so I was privy to what was going to happen, and so I brought my Bible. And when the camera actually drops down to a rear view of where we're sitting, and you see you and I standing there, and me holding up my Bible, all proud, like, "Yeah, I got my Bible. I got my Bible." You can tell it's me by the bald spot on the back of my head. But anyway, you can hold that up, and you can see you looking at me like, you, how dare you? It's so funny. And I took a little snapshot. I'll send it to you of you looking at me like, I can't believe you just did that. You're acting like you bring your Bible every Sunday.
Hey, man.
But what I was reminded of, and I didn't even get to the part that I was talking about, is that you hear some children, like you were saying, you want your daughter to have that memory of you singing Jesus in the morning, is that some kids say they remember waking up to their parent at the kitchen table or in their den reading the Bible. And that's what they remember all the time. And that's one of the things that always stuck in their head, that they always put God first in the morning. And so, yeah. So us doing this devotional is another thing. My kids see us doing it all the time and talking to each other. And my kids come up and look at us and see what we're doing in the morning when we're doing, and then hear us talk about God. And so hopefully that will be something that will be a very memorable thing, in addition to seeing a loving couple.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Really quick. Wanted to thank wanted to thank all of you for your thoughts and prayers. Tess' doctor appointment yesterday went well. Nice.
Amen.
Very good. So good.
Glad to hear that.
Yep. And Danielle agrees. That's a great way to start your day. And I showed this earlier, but I just got to show it again because I love these little things that kind of come up every so often. You two are an amazing team.
Thank you, Christine. We need the encouragement. Some days it feels like, sometimes it feels like a costume. Like, it's just like I put on this. I have these out of body experiences where I look at myself and I'm like, who is that person? It's no longer I who lives, but Christ that lives in me. And sometimes I get glimpses of that because I don't even recognize that person. I mean, my daughter calls me out. The other day I was making warm milk and honey for Andy's son, which is our little cute nighttime ritual together. And my daughter sees me leaned over and like giving him the milk and hugging him. And she's like, "Look at you being mommy of the year." Oh my God. She just totally calls me out. And I'm like, I know.
But you love it. I mean, it's not fake. It's just like, you just start making the coffee, the hot milk. And I just come out and I smile because I have to go in there and say prayers, and not have to, I do say prayers and tuck them in, make sure that they brush their teeth and all that kind of stuff. And then as I walk out, when Hede's here, she's making the warm milk and preparing it with the honey. And it's just like it's a ritual. It's awesome. I love it. And you were talking about not recognizing yourself. I love when I'm at your house and looking at the pictures of you with your hair cover. Is that what it's called? Hair cover?
Head cover.
Yeah, head cover. It's like, wow, like is that a relative? You're standing there with President Bush and President Trump and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, what just two separate worlds. So crazy.
Yes.
I love it though.
I love it.
We see each other in ourselves, right? We see that we are these born again people. It's just so awesome. So God bless Beverly.
Anybody can.
I know, for sure. So God bless Beverly. I hope she's having a good time up there, and just all the pain, all the suffering is gone. She's enjoying herself in the hands of God, and with her husband.
Hanging out with the angels, listening to them sing, Holy, holy, holy Lord Almighty, who was and is to come.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I got to get off. Love you guys. Take care.
God bless you. Have a great day.